Find your Hawaiian shirt, throw it on, pretend to be one of us. Welcome to the Card Pool. I'm Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we are looking at the money cards from the Commander 14 set. This is part 3 in our segment. Welcome aboard.
It is indeed. And again, you can look back at our previous 2 videos where we discussed our hidden gems of this set as well. They'll be right up there in the corner where Stu is pointing. But let's get right on into these money cards because they are good ones.
Yes, they are, and they have changed the game. And at number 1, we have a heavy hitter. It is Teferi, Temporal Archmage. This is around $32. It is a 6-drop mono blue planeswalker for 4 generic and double blue with a 5 loyalty starting. First of all, at the very bottom, we'll say it can be your commander, and yes, you've probably seen this as a very competitive commander.
Yes.
It has a +1 of which you can go ahead and look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other on the bottom. For -1 on tap, up to 4 target permanents for -1. And -10, you get an emblem where you may activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control pretty much on any point, because it's an instant speed. This is a really strong, probably the strongest planeswalker we have seen as a commander to date.
It probably is. I'm not a huge fan of this card personally, but it is pretty much the only one of these planeswalker commanders that caught on in any serious way.
Yeah, this is competitive EDH, pretty much poster child right here.
Yeah, and it's just that -1 ability is... Because the +1 actually is really not that great. The -1 ability is just absolutely busted, and then the ultimate, if and when you get there, is also nuts.
Yeah, and it's not hard to go ahead and abuse this guy. Being in mono blue, you can tutor for all the artifacts you need and want to use this guy. The Chain Veil and him are best friends. I don't know why Garrick was in the lore, because it should have just been Teferi in the Chain Veil the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, just untapping just 4 generic lands gives you 4 extra mana that you didn't have that turn. It basically makes him a 2-drop, essentially. But then if you have mana rocks that tap for a lot of mana themselves, like, it just gets crazy so quickly.
Yeah, and there's so many ways to do this. There's so many ways to build this. He's just... all the pieces fit so right with this guy that it's almost... how did you not see it coming?
Yeah, and the emblem gives you the ability to use the loyalty abilities whenever. So you can still only use every planeswalker's ability like once a turn, but still...
That's 4 turns fast right there.
Still, the scary part, not only can you use them, you know, on everybody's turn and tick them up to getting their ultimates again that much faster or doing whatever else, but the ability to activate planeswalker abilities at instant speed is really crazy.
Yeah,
there are some really interesting things that were not possible before that are possible now with that.
Could you imagine just turning Gideon into an indestructible creature whenever you want, just because he's about to die?
Right. Yeah, it's great.
It's so, well, there's other words for it too. But yeah, if you really want to know how abusable he is, just type in Teferi Stacks deck and be amazed.
Yep, he's pretty much the ultimate blue control commander, so yeah, it's really, really good.
But going on to Mr. Numero Uno, this is a very famed card.
Oh, it is indeed. So number 2 on our list is Worm Coil Engine, for which we mentioned before, actually. It's $27 a pop, so... it being reprinted a bunch of times hasn't really driven down the price at all because it is just that good. It's a 6-mana, 6/6 Death Touch lifelink worm artifact creature. And then when it dies, you put a 3/3 worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and another 3/3 with lifelink onto the battlefield. So it basically just splits itself in half when it dies.
Yeah, that's the best way to think about it. This is a value engine, well, because it is an engine, but yeah, it's a value engine in many ways. You sack it, you get the tokens. Go ahead, you bring it back, you sack it again, you get more tokens. Nobody wants to attack into you because that Death Touch is just terrifying.
And the lifelink can swing games around in a heartbeat because the highlight of this card is that any deck can play it. And that alone is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really is. This was originally printed in Phyrexia, I believe.
Yeah, it's a new Phyrexia card, yeah.
Yeah, so this is, even though this isn't an OG, it's definitely part of the reason people picked up this set. It's so strong, so good.
And it's a staple of competitive Magic. People play this card all the time.
And you've probably definitely seen this playing. It's worth the price just because it's so nice.
Yeah. And then... next up, well, let's go to...
Yeah, I love these guys. At my number 3, we're going to go for the medallions. Now, all 5 are printed, so we're going to look at the blue one here. It's called Sapphire Medallion. It costs 2 generic, and it reads, blue spells you cast cost 1 less. Very simple, very clean. This is one of the things where you always see the argument of, am I going to throw in an ingot or am I going to throw in this?
And the value on these is anywhere between like $17 and like $22.
Depending
so they
on
are
the color.
pricey cards.
Yeah, they're for just something as simple as this, they're very good, very strong. They just help it so that you can just lower the cost. Getting around things quicker, to drop them out sooner, it just helps.
Yeah, well, to think about this, at first you may be like, well, why is this better than just any other generic mana rock? But if you think about anything like that, like a Mind Stone or a Commander's Sphere or something like that, although we'll think of it in terms of like a Mind Stone because it only uses colorless mana, really.
Sure.
You tap Mind Stone for 1 colorless mana, and that's it. You're done for the turn. Like, you just make 1 extra, and that's it. Now, think about a Mind Stone that you could use every single time you play a spell of a certain color.
That's a fair comparison.
That's what this is. So that is insane.
Yeah.
And I love the medallions a lot. They are much needed reprints.
Yes.
Still very sought after because they're mana rocks you can use for every spell you cast. That's basically what this is. However, I sort of, again, I think these belong in monocolor decks, and I really don't see them belonging anywhere else.
I agree with you with that. It depends on how you're using it or what you're doing. If you have a lopsided mana base where it's like 50% of your cards are black and like a third are white and a third are green, throwing the black one in there wouldn't hurt you per se. You might not get the value on every single card like you would do in a monocolor deck, but it could still progressively help you in that realm. Even in dual colored, if you have, like, again, the pie is just kind of lopsided, you know, anyone who's using blue, you're typically going to see this, even if it's an Izzet deck. Izzet decks would probably use both, in all honesty, especially if they're trying to storm off.
So yeah, maybe it's not as useful in a deck with more colors, but it still could be.
Yeah, you wouldn't see this in a 5-color deck. That's why you see stuff like Chromatic Lantern being utilized there. But, I mean, solid pieces, they work, they get the job done. You honestly need to use a removal piece on these cards.
Yeah, they can come out early and generate just insane value over the course of the game. So,
yeah, you can actually see a person who gets Soul Ring turn 1 versus a person who gets out one of these for a monocolor deck, and you can see the Soul Ring not matter after pretty much a turn or 2.
It really, yeah, it's totally true.
So that gives you the idea of the power. But moving on to number 4, Kyle, this is a card I've seen you use.
Oh, yes, I do. So number 4 on this list is Ghoul Color Geesa. Now, this is a $22 card. She is a legendary human wizard and costs 5, 3 colorless, 2 black, 3 4. And to tap 1 black and her, you can sacrifice a creature and then put X 2/2 zombie tokens into play, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So you look back to Stitcher Geralf, our previous card in the lore, Geralf and Geesa, our brother and sister. So notice the fact that they have the same converted mana cost and the same exact stats.
Yeah, that was a flavor call.
It was definitely it was a purposeful call. However, in this particular case, Geesa gets the best of the sibling fight because she is the better card by far.
I'm kind of hoping they have kids at one point, not with each other, because that'd be a little different. But that ends up finishing the color pie with them. So there's like a 5-drop white, a 5-drop red.
Well, they did eventually get together in Shadows over Innistrad. They had a dual card.
Yeah, but that was just
really
blue
good,
and black. I'm just saying to expand the color pie more or less. I think that'd be kind of interesting.
But anyway, this is one of the more powerful alternative commanders in the set because the headliners of the set were the Planeswalker commanders, and then every deck sort of had a couple other monocolor legends.
100%.
This is one of them, and this is probably, if not the best one, probably one of the best ones.
That's a bold sentence.
Well, it is, but this card is very, very good, and it's proven itself competitively, which is why it's so expensive.
Well, also, the token thing with the sacrificing, it is self-propelled. As long as you get rid of one, you can get rid of another zombie token, you get 2 for
and then
one.
You turn into 3, and then 4. Yeah, it basically goes up and up, but where this really shines is putting into play some creatures with very high power, sacrificing them for a horde of zombies. Again, just like Wave of Vitriol from one of the previous videos, a great card in my Mazarek deck because you sacrifice a creature, you make a bunch of 2/2s, and then, oh, they all get boosted to 3/3s almost immediately. So how good is that?
What's that to do with Wave of Vitriol?
So it's just in the same. It sacrifices things in the same. It's in the same kind of
okay, I
deck
see what
as
you're
it will
saying.
be. Yeah. So yeah, it combos with itself, but there are even more good things that you can do with this.
Yeah,
So.
this is for a deck that
Yeah.
goes wide. We see a lot of black zombie decks that love the tribal state where they just grow wide. This is no exception to that at all. This is more of the same, I feel, but it does it right.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Great commander.
Now, moving on to number 5, one of the best cards 100% ever printed in Magic. We're talking about Cyclonic Rift. This is a $20 card now. They've reprinted it a handful of times, and it is only being screamed at for more. It costs 2 mana, or so you think, but it reads, for an instant, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. And for overload of 7, meaning you pay 6 and a blue for this, you go ahead and you change the instant for target for pretty much each.
Yeah.
So this pretty much returns all non-land permanents you don't control to their owner's hands. 3 players, putting everything back. Feels nice for 7 mana because that is bang for your buck.
Well, and it's at instant speed, so you can do it just before your turn starts. So you have a clear field to do whatever you want, and pretty much nobody's going to do anything about it. This, I know there are, strictly speaking, better cards than this, but for commander purposes, this is the best card in Blue's arsenal, period. End of story.
Yeah.
There is no contest.
Yeah, there's similar cards that are like Evacuation or Kendrick Leviathan and stuff like that they get the job done, but not as elegantly as this. And honestly, if you see somebody with 7 mana sitting open and they're running blue, you're like, okay, just get it over with.
Yeah, for the ability to bounce any non-land permanent for 2 mana, that's decent. You know, that's not a bad effect.
No.
But you're running this for its overload cost, which is a one-sided board wipe that is just absolutely devastating and almost impossible to recover from.
Yeah, the only time you see somebody play it for 2 is if it's a game-saving move or they're able to recur it from the grave. I think the one thing that this thing does need getting tacked on is that it gets exiled if you use the overload cost. I think that's something that should happen with this card moving forward.
Well, there is a lot of talk continuing in the community as to whether or not this card deserves to be banned, which we touched on in one of our previous videos.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
A lot of people feel that it does. As a blue player, I would be very sad if this were banned, so I'm going to say no for the time being.
As a green player, I'd still not care.
It's great. It's just, yeah, I would be very sad if this went away because blue, for a long time, had a lot of problems dealing with multiple threats. This is one of the best answers you could possibly ask for.
Hence the price tag.
Yeah.
But moving on to number 6, Kyle, you got to take this. This is a deck that you have created and
I have,
cultivated.
and it's so much fun. Titania, Protector of Argoth, is our number 6, and she's a $16 card. Again, one of the other legendary alternative commanders in the set. She's an elemental. She is a 5/3 for 5, 3 colorless, and 2 green. When Titania enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you create another 5/3 green elemental token. So, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up between this one and Geesa, because Geesa is very good, but they're probably tied for like the best alternative commanders in this set, because this one, while Geesa is fairly straightforward with what she does, Titania is so open-ended and so
it's
creative.
versatile, yeah.
And there's so much room for creativity, combo potential, and uniqueness that it's just a really, really cool card. This was a wonderful feat of card design, and it's very easy to ramp it into play. This is a green deck after all. There are all kinds of great utility lands that sacrifice themselves or to do other things with them. You can just get back from your graveyard over and over again.
Yeah.
And you generate a massive army of creatures while you're doing it. And yeah, I mean, Scape Shift, Sylvan Safekeeper, Zurin Orb, just basically overwhelm people with tokens.
I mean, not even go that crazy. Just a strip mine where you go ahead, you lose it, they lose a land, and you get a giant creature for it. I mean, that's not even putting it to its full potential, but that's just an easy play to do, and it feels so dang good. And I mean, the only thing that I'd say that holds you back on this is pretty much your wallets. Like, if you want Crucible of Worlds screams to be in this deck.
Oh,
you can't afford a Crucible of Worlds, you have tons of other options to use for this. But it's just, again, it's whatever you want your imagination to be with this. Use pretty much all green, good stuff, landfall, whatever, and just oppress.
It's a great, great card. It really is.
Yeah, this is one of the best ones, and it's easier to win. People are always kind of like comparing this to the Gitrog monster, which has black in it now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, which one's better? I would still kind of argue Titania just for its elegance, whereas the Gitrog monster needs a little bit more hoops, more or less.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult because Titania obviously belongs in that deck. But it's just, yeah, it's...
Well, and the Gitrog monster would want to be in Titania's deck, too, if it could.
If it could be.
Yeah.
But it's a question of whether, do you really feel like you need to expand to that other color? Or do you want to just keep it lean, mean, green machine? I don't know. It's totally up to you.
Yeah. It's the big green. Not the movie, but just the creature. But
Well,
moving on to number 7, talking about big and green, it looks it. Grave Titan is our number 7. He's coming in at around $15 for a 6-drop. That costs $15. He is a 4 generic and double black for a 6/6 body. That is a giant, typical Titan kind of style. He has Death Touch, but in addition, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you go ahead and you put two black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield. This is very similar to any Titan that we usually see. Sun Titan's the one that's more notorious. Whereas when it enters, it does something. When it attacks, it does something. It's a big body, and it is something that's always taken in as a threat. This is a combo piece in the best way form.
Oh, it is. Well, the Titan cycle was very, very good and continues to be good. Obviously, the best one, Primeval Titan, has been banned because it was so good.
Yeah.
This is a close second. I would argue this is better than Sun Titan, even though I do really like Sun Titan and is obviously very good. Your Grave Titan has proven historically to be the best one because it has, like you said, basically so much combo potential, 3 creatures every single time it comes into play or it attacks. That kind of value just can't be beaten. And you can create infinite creatures with this very, very easily.
I'm just going to say, the only reason Sun Titan isn't a money card in this, look at how much it's been reprinted. It's been iterated at least 8 times.
And there's a reason for that, because Sun Titan is not nearly as broken as Grave Titan is.
Yes and no. But, dude, Sun Titan, I would rather have 9 times out of 10 over a Grave Titan.
Well, you can't have them in the same deck all the time, so it's kind of an irrelevant argument.
Well,
but...
we'll do a poll. Which is your Titan? Is it the Grave or the Sun?
The only complaint I have about this card, really, is... It really irritates me when they stick Death Touch on these giant creatures.
Yeah.
I'm like, why does it matter? It's big already.
No, actually, what I think would make it the best is if it produced Death Touch zombie tokens.
Well,
now,
that would be too good. That would be too good, though.
I think it'd almost be valuable. It
would
warrant where it should be.
That would be immensely overpowered, in my opinion.
Or a 0/1 zombie token with Death Touch. It's just funny because it's not doing any damage.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. Personally, I feel like this is probably the best Titan we have available to us in Commander. But hey, I will admit, I do play Sun Titan a lot more often than I play this, just because it fits into a lot more decks that I build.
It does. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of got more value. But moving on to number 8, this is a card you use more than I do as well.
I do, absolutely. Number 8 on this list is Kage Sun, and it's a $10 card. Again, not original to this set. It's been reprinted a number of times since its original printing, and I believe it was New Phyrexia, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. However, this set is pretty much, monocolor commander decks, and this set was all about supporting monocolor, and Kage Sun goes right in there with all of those other ones. So, it's a 6-drop artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a color. Creatures you control of that color get +1/+1, and then it doubles any mana that you get that might be that color.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not doubles in the traditional sense. Just gives you 1 additional. But most of the time, it's essentially doubling.
Yeah, it's not a Parallel Lives. No, not Parallel Lives.
It's a Mana Reflection.
Mana Reflection.
Yeah. But, again, a card that any deck can use because it's a colorless artifact, but not every deck would want to use it. I think it's pretty much confined to monocolor decks, again. But it's an absolute staple there, and you should be playing it.
It is, except for in Red. Red has probably one of the best OG old boys to this thing, being Gauntlet of Might.
Or Mana Flare, if you want to.
No. I'm saying, well, I guess inherently Gauntlet of Might is open to all players as well, because it is Red. But it's just a lower cost version of this. I feel like Red's the only one that, and I guess truly Green as well, doesn't need this. This is for pretty much the rest of the colors. However, you can use this in red if you want it as a budget option. If you
Oh,
don't
I would
wanna-
absolutely use it.
If you don't want like $1,000 card, sure, I understand. If $10 is way more appealing in that regard, that's totally fine.
Plus, it's not just a mana doubler, it also boosts all your creatures, which is good in and of itself.
Honestly, I feel like it's the Mirari's Wake for all of the colors.
It pretty much is, yeah. It's not quite as good as that is, but it's close.
Yeah, it's pretty dang close if we do say so. But it is a Wake. You gotta respect it. But moving on to our number 9. Now this is a card that I personally love using, and I think they got it totally right. It's called Freyalise Llanowar's Fury. It costs $10 for a Planeswalker that can be your commander. It's a 5-drop for 3 generic and double green for a 3 loyalty starter. It has a +2 in which you go ahead and you put a 1/1 green elf druid creature token into play that can produce, can tap to produce 1 mana, pretty much a Llanowar elf.
Yep.
It has a -2 to go ahead and destroy target artifact and enchantment, and a -6 to go ahead and draw a card for each green creature you control. This is one of the few Planeswalker commanders that we see that doesn't have an emblem tacked onto it, which is something to note because it's that powerful without it. Being able to get Llanowar tokens is very strong. Also for the fact of them being Druid tribal is a thing that's very strong, but they are limited on what a Druid is.
Yes.
So that's the only thing that kind of makes them more balanced. This goes ahead and makes it so you can do a Druid tribal. I can't speak, I'm so excited about this. A Druid tribal deck based on this commander alone, which is awesome. But just the recurable version of destroying artifacts and enchantments, usually it's a one-shot. You go ahead, you use something like, anything, honestly, to go ahead and just destroy 1 artifact or an enchantment, and green is filled with those. So being able to recur it on a Planeswalker is phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a combination of really good abilities here. You can play her as a commander, and I have seen people do it. I would not personally do it or advise it.
But you can see why, though.
Yeah, I can see why, but basically it's too open-ended and not as powerful as more specifically focused options. Like, for example, this is pretty much promoting an elf tribal type strategy. If you're going to play elf tribal, just play Azuri. You'll be a lot happier.
You weren't listening. Druid tribal.
Well, there's that too. I mean, you can do that. But the reason this is good is, one, as a plus, producing mana producing tokens is pretty good.
Yes.
As far as pluses go. The -2 is definitely where it's at. Planeswalkers that destroy artifacts and enchantments are in short supply, and we need more of them. This is one of those that does it, so it's great for that alone.
Yeah.
The ultimate also, I play this actually in my Hapatra deck because there are a lot of creature tokens being made and a lot of proliferate being thrown around.
Yeah.
I've used that ultimate many a time, and it's drawn me lots and lots of cards, so I love it for the ultimate aspect of this too. Very undervalued. Card draw in green can sometimes be hard to come by.
Well, this is also really notable because they've taken note from like what we've seen from like the past Garrix and stuff like that. They've like, all right, well, what are these missing? And honestly, we always check we always check to see if a Planeswalker hits all the boxes, and this one does. It produces a token to protect itself. Its ultimate is worthy in its colors because green needs a little bit of help of drawing cards here and there. Not all the time, but it likes a little hand. And also for the targeted removal, it's great. It's well valued. The only thing you always wish is that you had a little bit more loyalty on this thing starting out, but...
Yeah. It's not Commander material, but it is Commander the game material.
Yeah, this is a 99. If you're running anything that's mono green, this is in there. Anything that's Simic, this is in there. Anything, even tricolored, I'd say, this is worthwhile, especially green, white, red. It just keeps you going.
Oh yeah, you got to think about it for sure. But our next card, and the last one on our list, is another green card, also very, very interesting. Number 10 here is called Song of the Dryads.
Oh, this is so good.
It's an aura enchantment that costs 3, 2 colorless and a green to play. You enchant any permanent you want, and the enchanted permanent is a colorless forest land. So, yeah.
This is a $9 aura. The reason why this is so much money, and you see Darksteel Mutation being like a couple... Like I think
it's like 50 cents.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe a buck or two.
No.
Is that it's a land. It's so much harder to destroy a land than it is a creature.
Yeah, and also, the Darksteel Mutation leaves behind an indestructible blocker, even though it is tiny. This, making it into a land, just completely removes it from the field of play almost. And even though it is going to be giving them mana, one, they might not even be able to use it because it's green mana, because it's a forest. And then two, as you said, a land is a lot harder to somehow sacrifice or get rid of and get back later. than a creature is.
Yeah, so it
yeah.
takes it way out of the equation, and it's honestly, green really needed this.
Oh yeah, the green is kind of, I mean, it does have a lot of answers to things, but it's short on catch-all answers. This is like Beast Within caliber removal. This is really good.
But this is permanent. It's not like on a creature. Like you initially think of like, all right, tacking on someone's commander, they're pissed. Yes, they are pissed.
Yes.
But like, go ahead, get rid of a planeswalker, because like if a planeswalker commander's there, you can't equip it to it as a creature.
Do they have a land you don't like? Just turn it into a colorless forest, and it's, you know, just a basic land.
Yeah,
now.
it's so much harder, especially for something like a Teferi deck. You go ahead, you make that planeswalker into a forest. They will outright scoop right then and there, pretty much, if they don't have a counterspell or something in their hand to return permanence. Because a Cyclonic Rift, I mean, this will hit that, but you're going to have to waste it early on just to return an R to their hand that they're going to recast later.
Yeah, this is a very undervalued card. Surprisingly, very, very good. Might even be better than straight up destroying something in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and honestly, would you rather a Beast Within or a Song of the Dryads?
I don't know. It depends.
It really does. If you're running an Enchantress build, they use this.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not using an Enchantress build, they use the creature version. So it's just something that's really good, especially it's only gotten better being able to hit planeswalkers, which we see more in abundance now. And if they ever make another type of permanent, this is only going to get better.
Oh, yeah. So that about wraps it up. A good one, though.
Yeah, I love, those are all great cards. If you haven't seen them before, we're glad to at least introduce them to you. And maybe they have room for you in your decks, but be sure to let us know which ones you like, anything else like that, or things that we're saying totally wrong. I know I'm saying tons of them. Be sure to let us know anywhere on social media.
Indeed, you can find us on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. We've got pages on there. We've also got a Tapped Out with all of our deck lists if you want to check that out. And you can follow us at mtgthecardpool@gmail.com if you want to email us. That's where we're at. And like I was saying, follow us on here. You know, give us a like.
Give us a like, give us a subscribe if it's something that you haven't seen before, or if you just want to see what outlandish stuff we have coming next. But until then, I'm Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you next time at the card pool. Dryad land thing.
It's just so funny, right? Oh, man.